Hello, Denim Heads, and welcome to your 16th Hangout with the Sons of Selvedge podcast, the first for the year 2022. This is a podcast where a group of friends get together to talk about denim, menswear, and related interests. We aim for this to be a fun and inclusive podcast where you feel like you're hanging out with longtime friends, but be warned, there's a bit of banter, cutting up, and explicit language. So in this episode, we'll do a bit of current interests, some news, some Q&A, and our discussion topic is about provenance, where things are manufactured. So on that note, let's jump right into introductions.
All right, I'm Andy.
I'm David.
I'm Ilya.
Hey, I'm Kevin.
Hey guys, Lex here.
And I'm trying not to burp again. I'm Tom.
Cool. So welcome to 2022. I hope you guys all had a good holiday, Christmas, New Year's, a couple weeks back at work already. Apologies to our fans that we didn't get something out to you in December. We kind of chose to be lazy bastards instead of recording and enjoy a bit of extra mulled wine instead of wasting a Sunday morning recording this horrible podcast that you all hate. Oh, well, actually, I hope you don't hate it. But anyways, so it's good to have everybody back. Looking forward to the new year. Exciting overcast gray day here. That's a sign of good things to come. So I guess let's kick it off with a bit of current interest. Who'd like to start?
Yeah, I can go first. I've got a couple of bits. Excluding the fact that in the space between I think November and the new year, I put on 6 kilos, which was pretty good going over the party time. It was not the good 6 kilos. But
yeah, but booty kilos
all around the waist.
So you didn't just stuff a small kettlebell in your pocket or something?
I tried to say that to my wife once. It didn't really work. But no. Just got chonk. But that's fine. It's Christmas. Actual interests. I've got a couple. So I'll do the denim one first, and then I'll do the one after done the rounds. So Christmas was surprisingly good for getting bits and bobs. So first up, I got this Toys McCoy heavy olive waffle knit sweater off my wife and son for Christmas, which was nice. I didn't expect to get anything, having got those Onis. But yeah, that was that. And then I knocked a load of shit over in my room. This might be a sign that I've hit a midlife crisis. But I got myself my very first leather jacket.
Woo!
Yeah, and there it is. It is.
You can do anything you want now.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a rebel.
You look good in leather.
Have you also got a younger girlfriend to go with it?
I my wife's from East London. If anything like that occurred, I would die. No mincing words there. Not that I would ever want to do anything like that, as I am a good boy and only have eyes for my wife. But yeah, swiftly moving on. Got this. This is the 9 Lives, and it's called the Masa Minos jacket. It's their take on a traditional kind of motorcycle jacket. They've like a racer jacket. They've stripped it down, so you don't, instead of a D-shaped pocket, it's just a kind of a built-in one. You can see that, and they've kind of cut out a lot of the extra trappings on the jacket. Rivet and Hyde had it on in their Sayonara bit for a while now, because it's from a couple of years ago. They had like one left in XL, and that is actually the perfect fit for me. And yeah, I love it. It's great. It's really not the right weather to wear a leather jacket at the moment, but I keep doing it.
And what's the leather on it? Can you remind me?
Let me see if I can find it online.
Is it cowhide or steer hide?
One sec. Sorry, I'm gonna have to Google this shit. Masaminos.
find that Googling 9 Lives products is like really hard to do because you end up just getting a bunch of random shit from the 80s. It's like also like 9 Lives rock t-shirts, 9 Lives cat apparel, and it's ridiculous.
I don't think it's that one. That's a custom one that was done in. There we go. Ironheart are talking about it. 1.3 mil black veg and chrome tanned steer hide.
Nice.
From
Nice.
Image in Japan.
Hard.
Yeah. But it won't. It's not like a lot of the kind of jackets that everyone's going for at the moment. It's not T-core or anything like that, so it will just stay black all the way through.
Yeah, I mean,
for me that'd be a must-have.
So again?
Yeah, I think if I was buying a black leather jacket, which someday I hope to, I would definitely personally want non-T-core. I don't like the idea of like brown coming through.
Okay, see, I'm the other way around.
Well, then just buy a brown jacket, right? It's like, to me, it's like if I buy a black jacket, I want it to stay black.
I quite like it's the aging process, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but you'll still get like a cool black patina, right? Where it gets roughed up, you'll see like the kind of matte interior of the leather and that kind of stuff. But like for me, it's the idea of which is kind of why I don't love Chromexil. It's like not a perfect leather in my mind. It's like I love the high shine, I love the finish, but like under the Chromexil top layer, is like the leather's going to be brown. And like I wish you could get like the shine and the beauty of like Chromexil, but with like a black interior of the leather as well. See, I'm not a big T-core fan. It's sort of the idea of a black garment becoming brown. So I actually think that's a selling point of your jacket.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how it ages over time, especially once it gets a little bit warmer. I can wear it a lot more. So yeah.
Nice white tee underneath.
Yeah.
Or nothing at all.
But doing my cruising cosplay.
Cool. Well, I guess I can go next. On the kind of menswear front, been finding some goodies on Grailed recently or on deals. I've kind of been sort of getting really into the like eBay finds and the Grailed finds. So I picked up like a couple of bits that are all at my parents' house, but got like one of the black wax canvas supply jacket for like half price. What do you call it? Ridgeline, the Stag exclusive one, basically brand new. And then on Taylor Stitch's website, I picked up a M51 field jacket collaboration they had done with Alpha Industries, which is kind of cool. It's like a indigo reverse sateen, bit big, but I guess it's meant to layer, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, a couple other like less interesting clothing finds, but yeah, it's interesting because I find that Grailed is like such an amazing place to pick good stuff up. Like people are just listing things left and right. But I've run into this problem, which I've emailed the Grailed team about as well, and that's that their default postage prices when you list a listing and say that you'll sell it abroad are just like not tenable. So by default, the shipping to the UK is $25. And like $25 is like what it would cost to send something priority mail domestically with all the inflation and COVID stuff. So like a couple of times now I've like saw something, I was like, yes, I'll ship it to the UK for $25. And then, I offer it and the person accepts it. And then they go to ship it and they're like, oh my God, that's impossible. That's like a quarter of the shipping cost. It's going to cost me $100 or just like crazy stuff that almost seems BS, but I guess is maybe legit. So it's really annoying. So now every time I go on there, I'm like, hey, are you willing to ship to the UK? Do you actually know how much it's going to cost to ship to the UK? Do you know that you've listed as $25? And most time people are like, oh, no, we won't do that. And so I'm just having to like get stuff sent to my parents' house, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I'll survive. And then the more interesting bit, I guess, in terms of acquisitions is I finally bought a sewing machine. So I went domestic just because I kind of calculated the options of buying an industrial machine, getting the table, making the space, etc. And it's like, right here next to my workspace, there's like mini shit everywhere, Warhammer stuff. So I don't really have a big creative space for like a dedicated table. So I kind of decided I would go for a domestic machine. And I tried to find the like most denim oriented / heavy duty domestic machine. So I was looking at some of the Toyota Super Jean machines. They've got like Super Jean 17, 34, whatever. And each one's got more and more.
Before.
You used to have one of those?
Yeah. I've still got it above my wardrobe, but not great. Not very super in any jean aspect.
Oh, that's a shame. So I looked at those, and I looked at a couple others that were like just kind of random, but I ended up going with a Singer. They've got a version of their heavy duty machine called the 6335M. So it's basically a new iteration of the existing Singer 5-something heavy duty machines, but it's got a few denim specific features. They call it like the heavy duty denim machine. So it's got like a presser foot that you can kind of set to different heights. So if you've got like multiple layers of denim, you can kind of like, go over, like raise it higher to sit on a belt loop or something. And then it's got like an increased puncturing force for pushing the needle through denim. And then like the platter that it sits on, you can slide it off, and it's got like a round denim arm for doing like a jean leg and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool for like a domestic machine. And I'm still learning how to do it, and kind of like learning how the differences of that versus an industrial machine. Because I was actually at a sewing shop yesterday, and I was buying some threads up here in Cambridge, and I was like grabbing the big giant spools, and the lady's like, "Oh, do you have an overlocker machine?" I was like, "No, why?" She's like, "Oh, well, that won't fit on a domestic sewing machine." I'm used to like the machines at Black Horse where they have these giant cones of Gutermann 35 weight thread and stuff. I'm like, oh, right, I forgot. I can only put like a little spool on my machine. So I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the differences. And interestingly, pattern seeking is quite a challenge. So I've actually found it a bit challenging to find anyone sort of making workwear patterns. But my friend Eddie, who I think a lot of y'all know, he's a local friend in the denim scene in London who does a lot of leather stuff. He's recommended me check out, I think it's called Thread Theory or Twill Theory. What is it? Yeah, it must be Thread Theory. Damn, I'll come back to it in a minute, but they basically make all sort of workwear and heritage style patterns. You can do like 5-pocket jeans, they do like a good kind of like classic, Oxford cloth style button-down shirt, etc. Thread Theory, thank you. So I'm looking to pick some of those up and maybe try them out, but ultimately hope to kind of like design my own garments based upon them. So yeah, it'll be fun. Don't think I'll try and ever actually like sell anything or make any money. But yeah, it'll be fun to kind of make some garments for myself. And I guess one last little bit is I've mentioned before my buddy Chris, who owns a business called Kaiju Cut and Sew in Austin, he's kind of focused a lot on like leatherware, like leather goods and everyday carry type stuff, and a sort of a Japanese pop culture influence. He's just got something really cool going where he's actually launched a collaboration beer. So it's like his brand plus Austin Beer Works in Austin, Texas. And it's called Eastern Philosophy, a Kaiju Brew. It's like a jasmine dragon pearl tea infused strong lager made to be poured over ice, 7.5%. And what's really cool about it in particular is he's Asian American, and all the proceeds are going to a charity to look after folks of Asian heritage in the USA. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyways, that's it for me.
What have I been up to? I guess I'll start with something clothing related. And for Christmas, I got a Bars Rixson CPO to replace my full count CPO, which I found a little bit too thick and unwieldy. So yeah, I kind of traded that up. Managed to get a good resale price for the full count. So that was a nice Christmas present actually from my wife, and at the same time I managed to get that customized by Julio, who's a embroidery artist, and he actually had a pop-up at the Black Horse Lane Atelier shop, and yeah, I managed to get him to do that for me. So I had a anchor on my right-hand side and a little SOS on the left chest, just right above the chest pocket. So that was kind of
that's
nice.
for when we start our biker gang, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
We kind of talked about it when we first started it, maybe doing some custom kind of thing. So I thought, oh, that would be a nice nod to, you know, Sons of Selvedge, but also Save Our Souls. So I thought, yeah, it was kind of a nice, yeah, because I thought eventually we were going to break up like a band and have kind of, you know, some kind of emotional breakdown between each other. So yeah, I could just flip over to Save Our Souls at a point where I don't like any of you.
Smart.
It's gonna be Kevin and Lex if it's anyone.
Bound to happen.
Yeah, we're gonna have our creative differences at some point. Someone's gonna have you know, a drug addiction, and someone's gonna go and marry someone who we don't like, and yeah, that's,
David will go solo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to rehab. Or release a sex tape if I haven't already.
Ooh.
I think that one's already out there, to be honest.
Hint.
Just gotta look for it.
Someday, if you ever get like lost on a deserted island and you know need your SOS to try and get rescued from someone standing 3 feet away from you.
That's it. It's very
Playing
practical.
with a really good camera.
Yes.
The show would be called
counting
Ilya Gins Island.
Yeah, I'm counting on someone with good binoculars. So that was a really nice kind of present, which has a lot of meaning for me. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with that, and something I can keep for a very long time, because I feel like it's has a lot of sentiment to me. Who would like to go next?
Nice. I'll go next. Not too much happened really between our last episode and now in terms of purchases on my end. The only thing I've purchased really is a new pair of sunglasses from Moscot, with like a transparent blue frame, you know, because I don't have enough blue items yet. So just added another one to the list. Because if you can go full blue, then why not, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that.
Which model did you get?
The Lemtosh.
Lemtosh. It's their classic.
Yeah.
Frame, isn't it?
Yeah. I tried a couple of sunglasses on, but yeah, these were the best. They're quite heavy, much heavier than any other pair of sunglasses I've ever had. I've had a pair of Ray-Bans for a very long time, black ones. So yeah, they feel very high quality, which is quite nice. It's a little investment as well because they're not cheap. So yeah, super happy with it. I wish there was a little bit more sun. We have a La Nina season here in Sydney, which means a lot of cloud and rain, unfortunately. But every time the sun's out, even for a minute, I'll put them on, no matter where I am.
That feels like one of the places on the entire planet where you're most likely to get usage out of your investment. It's like, I imagine Australia's got more sun than damn near anywhere else on this planet.
I'd say so. Yeah, it was one of the first things when we moved here as well, is invest in a proper pair of sunglasses. So like 5 years ago now, I think it's almost 5 years ago now. When we arrived, the first pair I bought was my first ever pair of Ray-Bans. Like before that, I always bought just cheap sunglasses because I would always lose them. But I still got my Ray-Bans as well, so I never lost them, which is great. My girlfriend lost hers once in the ocean, sadly, but she's got a new pair now. So yeah, that's it for me, really. Lex, what about you?
Cool. So what have I been doing? So firstly, I'll talk about shirts because it's that time of year where I've been buying myself some plaid shirts. So I bought myself a Gelado Roundup shirt from Clutch Cafe, which is their kind of plaid shirt based on the old Levi's Sawtooth shirt. Really nice purchase, really good quality flannel. The sizing was slightly strange, and you find you're kind of in between sizes. So the large was just a little bit too small for me, and the extra large, which I bought, is a little bit big. But I'm hoping when I kind of put it through the wash, it'll tighten up a little bit. So I got that, which some of you guys saw at the meet.
It's very nice. We enjoyed stroking you. The shirt.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed it too. Tom, I don't know why you're stroking me and you kept stroking downwards. I'm like, Tom, the shirt's got to my waist. That's my shirt.
It's like, that's my jeans now.
Yeah.
I know, Lex. I know.
Tom, why do you have to unbutton them to stroke my shirt? It makes no sense. Anyway, that's a different story. That will be that's something we should probably talk about in the news section of the podcast.
That will only be on our Patreon and OnlyFans accounts.
Only fades.
Have we ever started an OnlyFans? God knows who would pay money to see us on OnlyFans.
Oh, I've seen some people on Instagram who would definitely be interested in paying money for that.
I think
we've already discussed it a few times.
Work and Wall would sign up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that one guy who likes to buy really old smelly jeans from people.
I mean, if it gives the perception that we're popular and they're like a cool group to be around, hey, maybe that's the catalyst we need to actually build a true following.
Yeah.
I have a sex page.
No, I mean, invite all those people who are the kind of
niche.
Yeah, the niche fans to our
the crazy.
Get them on the Discord server, on our WhatsApp.
Oh, David, are we recording the video on this podcast?
Yep.
So we should we slowly unbutton our shirts to try and kind of up the listenership.
Don't encourage Tom.
That's funny.
Oh, God, David's neon's out.
Oh, my eyes.
Lost his arms.
Anyway, I also bought another shirt, so I managed to get in the is it Market? How do you pronounce it?
Market.
I believe it's Market.
Marked. Anyway, I managed to get.
It's like Market 2K, hence the 2Ks.
Marked. Anyway, however you pronounce it.
This should just be the whole podcast. Something like that.
Hey, actually, anyone want to go to the farmer market right after this call and go buy some bread?
Let's go down the supermarket.
I got Burgers Plus. They do a Czech cotton linen shirt with indigo, and I managed to get it really cheap. It was about 60-70 quid. Really nice shirt, really light, kind of be good for summer, so something to wear when the weather turns, if that ever gets better. Really good quality construction, triple needle, chain stitching. Really happy with it. And again, I haven't worn it to a meet yet, so Tom hasn't had a chance to stroke it, but I'll wear it to the next one so you can have a good old stroke.
Thank you, darling.
And the material of the shirt.
Oh yeah, I know.
For any of those who are keen to join our Discord server, we've got an ASMR channel that Tom's making content for.
Yeah.
I'll just be describing different fading patterns. Whispering just above the crotch.
I think with Tom's adjacency to his microphone, it's kind of an ASMR content anyways.
Always. Is this better then? Am I literally just being like, cool, is it my go?
Yeah.
It is.
Cool. I mean, not a lot clothing wise. I did manage to pick up on eBay one of the red LBC Henleys that they done a while back, like the 1800 style, which was surprisingly like quite a thick fabric. Which I thought LVC, usually their stuff's a bit like hit and miss in terms of the quality. Like some of their jumpers like stretch so much. I was pleasantly surprised, which was good. So I've almost reached peak 1800s minor. Also bought some very nice dungaree overalls, which are vintage 60s Big Brother. in a Liberty hickory stripe with some nice repair work on the legs, and actually a size that fits me and doesn't just like cut me right up the booty and the front part. So yeah, that's nice to actually find a vintage piece that fits me quite well. And apart from that, me and Ilya have been busy getting our heads fitted.
Nice.
I was just going to leave that there.
Yeah.
On that 60s Big Brother note, does that mean they have like a CIA wiretap inside the garment, or?
Yeah, I keep hearing like crackling. You know, all my adverts are now farming equipment. It has
Cold
got
War
little,
wiretaps going on.
Yeah, it's got like a little like federal eagle as part of the logo, which is quite interesting.
Tom,
yeah.
Do you want to expand a little bit more on the hat fitting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ilya won a competition on Instagram, and I kind of parasited on. I also got picked as a friend of Ilya to kind of we won a competition to get some very nice hats made for us by
we got some money off, didn't we, of the total price of the hats with Sierra South, who is a one-man hat maker in London, East London. The chap's name is Matt, yeah, he's making all the stuff himself. So we visited his studio up in Leighton, and just went through the options of choosing the felt color, the ribbon, the style of the hat, the shape of it, and any other customizations that we were kind of interested in following through with. So I think we've kind of gone fairly similar in styles, with a few little, changes here and there. But yeah, we're kind of excited to see how that will come out. So yeah, watch this space.
It's a very cool process. Seeing kind of all the different options he had available. Obviously, mine, I went full yeehaw, and yeah, it's gonna be very kicking. And then Ilya's is kind of more like kind of classic Stetson, but some very interesting kind of color options and different ribbon materials and different bits he could do to it. Some of his stuff that he does is, maybe a little bit more custom fashion-y and little like burnt bits and pins and stuff put in it. But, he does the classic stuff as well. And trying the ones that he had like pre-made, they feel so much better than my kind of modern Stetson that I've got. They feel so kind of stiff and solid. You could probably knock someone out with it if you wanted to.
I think so. Yeah, I think if you threw it like a frisbee, it would definitely knock someone's head off.
For myself and other fellow Texans listening to the podcast, could you please define full yeehaw?
You guys should know, like the center crease, like full like Western style. I'm actually going for just a pencil roll on the brim, instead of like properly curving it up. But I might do it in the future. Who knows? Because he can always like re-steam it, which was like quite cool. He was like, look, if you guys ever want like the ribbon replaced, if you're just like not filling the ribbon in like however many years, you want it like re-steamed and like change the shape slightly, it can all be done. Just like send it back to me and I'll change it, which is pretty cool service. So
can you get like the razor edge like Odd Jobs had in Bond?
I'm sure he can do. I'm sure he can do all that kind of stuff if you really wanted it. So yeah,
steam some tinfoil.
Yeah, I've gone for a Stratoliner kind of based hat. You've gone for more of a open road.
Yeah, open road.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of.
How long will it take you to get them made?
I think he's just put in the order for the felt. So once he's got that, I don't think it should take too long. There's no definite kind of date on it yet, but yeah. We'll keep you guys updated.
Definitely.
I feel like we should do a whole episode on kind of Western and sort of heritage style hats at some point. Like I bought a Stetson years ago, kind of as a joke, like a black kind of classic cowboy Stetson, and I just can't take myself serious enough whenever I try and wear it. There's a whole thing around like if you're wearing kind of vintage inspired hats, like how do you actually do it and like have the cojones to feel like you're actually looking cool. And it's interesting why I just could never take myself seriously, and so I just never wore it.
Well, I think with that's a great idea for a future episode. I think it's like with most clothing, which is a little bit, out there or out of the norm. I think
Like-
you just
Like
have
people
to
who
wear
wear
it.
neon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just have to wear it a couple of times, and then you I think it's you getting over it more than other people getting over it. Obviously, your location will also dictate how people will look at you. People in Cambridge might react a little bit different than in London, or maybe not. I think that's kind of thing. It's just having the confidence in yourself to do. I think at some point you just don't really care what other people think about you, and you just do what you want to do.
I can actually pull it off here if I just tell people it's a brand new sorting hat, like from Harry Potter, because it's like Hogwarts here. Oh well, that didn't work.
There was a joke, and I had to explain it in great detail.
I.e., not a good joke.
Who's next on the list of interests?
I've got a little bit.
Okay.
And it's definitely going to make you upset, Ilya,
Oh,
because
I'm sitting down.
yeah, get your grit in your teeth. Well, I went to Warhammer World, didn't I? I went end of December. I went with a load of the lads from the Dungeon Punks podcast. Arranged a chiller. They do every year a charity Dungeons and Dragons event in Leeds called Trial by Dice. I couldn't attend. I can't play Dungeons and Dragons to save my life, but it's just a laugh, and all the money goes to charity, so it's cool. So I went to the chiller. Only a couple of guys from the actual podcast turned up, and then a load of lads from kind of the Discord and the Facebook groups and that turned up. And it was a good laugh. Played like a single game. It was decidedly busy, which was surprising seeing with kind of COVID still running around. But yeah, for the most part, it was a good laugh. There were some questionable body odors from certain tables outside our group, which I think is an unfortunate stereotype that is actually quite accurate. And bimbled around, went into the museum, didn't spend a lot of money, which is it's a very normally if you go into somewhere like that you spend a shit ton, but no,
that must mean you bought no models and you only bought paints and brushes, because if you buy any models you're going to spend a lot of money.
No, I think I bought a book and that was it. But yeah, no, it was a really good laugh. I think they're trying to do some more again in the future, because it's kind of middle of the UK, so it's easier for a lot of people to get to. And yeah, that was my extra thing, just to annoy Ilya.
I feel kind of relieved, because I thought you would have said something like you got some kind of high tapered jeans or something.
Yeah, I got.
I can actually live with that, because that actually sounds quite fun.
Spray on the
That's like Ilya's lowest level you can ever get to.
Spray on acid washed stretch jeans and a pair of Chelsea boots.
You bought those new Tanuki denim jackets.
Cool. I guess one more bit I'll add is I've been really getting deep into the Uni pizza game. So for my 40th back in November, my partner, she got me the Uni Fira 12 pizza oven, which is the 12-inch oven with wood pellets. So it's like the most purest of all of them. They have got like a gas one and a couple other ones as well. But yeah, I've been really kind of getting big into the pizza making and kind of perfecting my skills. I haven't yet kind of mastered the whole like spin it in the air like a dude in New York would. But if I tap into my heritage enough, I'll eventually be able to get that kind of Italian American spin going. So yeah, I'm still practicing. And then pretty cool. I've kind of realized that, I was going to get a Weber grill at one point. I dreamed of getting a little green egg, but until I looked at the price tags, and then I just kind of realized that like the Uni Pizza Oven can basically do all of it. So it's got like they've got a cookbook, and it's a Swedish person and a Scottish person who founded the company, like a married couple. And so it's got a whole bunch of kind of like, I don't know, Swedish fish recipes and like, haggis in the oven type stuff. I mean, I'm being a bit sarcastic, but you can actually kind of use it for just about anything. So we've done some like apple crumbles in it. You can bake bread in it. You can do like grilled veg, grilled meats, you name it. So I'm kind of stoked that by like getting one item, I'm kind of able to cover all my barbecue needs. And it's also pretty cool too, because like the kind of protective cover you can put on it, if you're kind of keeping it outside, also is basically like a duffel. So like, if I'm going over to, I don't know, to Andy's house for the weekend or something, you can just basically like throw the oven in the back of the car and bring it. Or if we go to like to hang out somewhere, I can like just bring the pizza oven and kind of set it up in a park or something. So it's really cool and kind of nice and portable, and covers all your barbecue needs. So definitely recommend folks checking out the Uni. And there's quite a scene around it, like people trying to kind of like invent new recipes, hacking it. It feels a bit sort of like kind of getting into that like the sourdough rabbit hole or like the coffee brewing rabbit hole. It's like a kind of a crafts hobby, cooking, whatever thing. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and highly recommend the Uni.
How are you finding? Because I've got one as well, so I've gone non-purist and got the gas one. How have you found the pellets are holding their kind of heat for doing big batches of pizza?
It is a challenge for sure. Like my brother-in-law bought the gas one as well, and apparently you can like convert them. So like you can get a wood adapter for the gas one and a gas adapter for the wood one, whatever. But yeah, I definitely find that like got to throw the pellets in, got to give it 15-20 minutes to heat up. And then once it's like at temperature, you got to pretty much be adding pellets to it like every 5 or 10 minutes to kind of maintain the heat. Otherwise, it definitely starts to fluctuate. And I've never really been able to get it over like maybe 350 Celsius or maybe even 300 Celsius. So like the whole idea of it getting up to 500 degrees, I haven't achieved that yet. Maybe that's also a product of like using it outside in UK winter. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a bit more work, but I don't know. I like playing with fire, so for me it was worth it.
And how's your dough game so far? What recipes are you using?
Yeah, I use their kind of default one that's in the book, but I also managed to get the Franco Manca book for like £1 on Kindle. So I definitely have ambitions to like make a new sourdough starter and kind of try and replicate their dough. Like their number 4 pizza, which has got anchovies, olives, capers, and chili flakes, is like my favorite pizza. So if I can achieve like a replica of the Franco Manca number 4, I will have won at life, at least in a culinary way. But yeah, so far I've just been using the standard dough recipe in the book, and I found it works pretty well.
I've got a Christmas present from my brother-in-law, who's also got an Uni. He's slightly obsessed with it. The Pizza Bible book by Tony Geminar. I can't pronounce his name. Tony someone. Which I'd highly recommend. He's got lots of really good recipes. So if you're looking to branch out, he kind of won. Basically, he's won every single pizza competition in the world. So he's like kind of one of the leading experts in pizza making. So I'd recommend that if you want to branch out in your pizza-based literature.
100%. You said that's called the Pizza Bible?
The Pizza Bible, yeah. It's
Cool.
It's on your Uni website, actually. They've got it one as they'd recommend as well.
Is it like a red cover, like a red and yellow cover, something like that?
Yeah, red cover.
Yeah, okay.
And it's got kind of every different type of pizza across the world. Because I want to start trying to make kind of American style pizzas like Chicago style and Detroit pizza, but I've not got around to working out how to do it. But we'll have to have a pizza off at some point.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I really enjoyed my Uni jeans. Never really. So I had to. Can I just point out for anyone who's like listening and can't see us, David has for some reason got a backpack on, a neon backpack, so he looks like some kind of cyber dog, Dora the Explorer.
Doesn't work with the camera. Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a news thing, but yeah, maybe kind of early news bit. But Atelier de l'Armee had a shop in the Netherlands, and they shut it down. And they had like a range of whatever bags they had in their shop for like less than half off. So I figured I'd take a punt on one. It's like 150 euro. It's like about 120 pounds, which they're normally like at least 300 pounds. So yeah, thought I'd try one out. And just for those who are thinking I'm going to show up like I work at Cyberdog, I think I probably have a hard and fast rule of never wearing more than one neon item at a time. So yeah, you won't see me looking like a complete idiot.
No, we love it. We can see you coming at least.
No sneaking
far
up
away.
The bag is it's a chunky beast. I mean, the fabric's like, it's like a nylon, this particular like a woven nylon. So almost like if you imagine sashiko, but like with nylon threads instead of cotton. So it's really, really beefy, really, really well made. I think the only complaint I'd have, and I had this complaint before I even bought it, but I figured for the price I'd take a punt. And that said, the ergonomics aren't amazing. So like the fact that you have, two kind of like cross the top straps to like open the bag means that like you've got to unbuckle two things to open it. Whereas like on my Teranishi bag, it's got two like pearl snap style straps. So like you can just quickly bam, bam, and get it open. And then also like the kind of flap here sort of slightly obfuscates the access to these big kind of compartments on the outside. It's making it like slightly tricky to dig into it. So it's sort of usability is good. The makesmanship's amazing. Like the leather is like half an inch thick. It's awesome quality. But yeah, I guess just the ergonomics aren't perfect, but it's still pretty good. And I wouldn't pay full price for one, but if you can get a deal on it, then I think they're pretty nice.
Yeah, sweet. As the flight pack you've got, right?
Yeah, the flight pack. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I've always had my eyes on them, but I've never, because they're so expensive, I've never really bit the bullet. So next time there's a sale on, I'll keep my eye out again.
Yeah, one thing I couldn't figure out is if they were just simply selling off the stock they had at their shop that they shut down.
Yeah.
And like that was like all, or if they were kind of dipping into their actual inventory as well. So it was unclear if like the struggles they're going through is just their shop closing, or if it's like a broader business challenge. Because on their website, nothing's on sale. So I don't know.
I think it was just a shop, yeah. Because the email with all the bags that they had on sale was definitely not all of the bags that they make. So I assume it's just
okay.
Shop inventory, yeah.
Yeah, I love that Swedish M90 camo bag they did. I think Division Road used to sell it. That bag was gorgeous. But yeah, when it came out, it was like $500 or something.
Yeah.
Bit much.
Yeah. These days, I rarely buy anything full price. I'm almost always either buying something off Grailed, off eBay, or like half price sales kind of things. Feels more gratifying to get a good deal. All right, so quickly fast track into news. I don't think there's actually much this week, but there is one thing I wanted to mention, and that's that have y'all seen Proximity Denim and the fact they've launched some jeans with Telesun? So for those who don't know, Proximity Denim. Yeah, so Proximity Denim seems to be, I haven't read too much on them yet, but it seems to be a group of folks in North Carolina who I guess have kind of taken over the Cone Mills White Oak plant. So I don't know if they've kept it in the same physical location and just like bought that part of Cone Mills' factory, or if they've like bought the draper looms and like moved them up the street or something. But they're basically, it's like a bunch of old Cone Mills workers trying to replicate Cone Mills denim. So looking at the jeans I did with Telesun, I think at jackets too, it's that kind of classic old school, cone mills, white with no selvage line, those kind of like lighter blue, either natural indigo or less dipped synthetic indigo. But it looks like they're basically just trying to kind of replicate what Cone Mills was doing before, just under a different business name. I thought that was cool.
Think if I remember right, it's like they've got the original Greensboro kind of white oak plant, but it's like a very, very small, like, it's one corner of like the original factory, because I think Vidalia Mills bought a lot of the X3 Draper looms, but they're based somewhere else.
Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana, that's the one. So proximity, it's a lot smaller scale than obviously what Cone Mills were doing, which probably works a lot better for them. I feel like the original kind of Cone Mills factory was absolutely humongous, and they just couldn't get as many orders as needed to run that many machines.
It brings up a good question. That it's like, if you've got Cone Mills staff using Cone Mills machines in a Cone Mills building and trying to recreate Cone Mills denim, like, is it Cone Mills denim? And if it's not, and it is something different, does like the value of Cone Mills denim decrease? Like the idea of like having dead stock or having, vintage. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I'd say if it's as good as the original Cone Mill stuff, which there's no reason why it shouldn't be, and maybe they can expand upon the original Cone Mill stuff, do some more experimental stuff, then what's the point of getting like super expensive dead stock old Cone Mill stuff, which to be honest, most of it was pretty run of the mill anyway. I think it would be quite good for people to buy into it.
I think this ties into our main discussion topic for today, doesn't it? Very nicely. On provenance.
Oh, provenance.
Provenance. If you watch, what's it, Fake or Fortune on BBC with Fiona Bruce and that bloke with the scarf.
What is Fake or Fortune?
It's about art and finding out whether it's a fake or worth a fortune. That's the name.
And do you have to say art in that kind of nasal way? Art.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Art. And that's why
Otherwise it's not art.
and that's why you have to say provenance.
Fine art.
The
Fine art.
provenance
Yes,
of
yes.
Provence.
Delightful.
Is anybody going to the tea party at number 10 today? Boris Johnson's
Fuck
hosting.
is that? Sounds like a dick man of that. Sweet.
Oh, that's the sound of all of our UK listeners.
Leaving.
Oh yeah.
Go on then, Gaffer. Want some jelly deals in a pork pie?
Please, sir. Can I have some more?
I don't know what's funnier, that all Americans sound like Dick Van Dyke when we try and do British accents, or that when British people all sound like John Wayne when they try and do American accents. I don't know which is more egregious.
America is more egregious. I'm joking.
Shots fired
Please,
from top.
please don't kill me. Ilya, what do you think?
In regards to the denim and the proximity, I think it's a really good venture that they've started to do that again. Obviously, if they can, dig into the history and make denim in Greensboro again, I think that's a great thing for the denim industry. And yeah, I think it will probably affect the price of dead stock cone in some way, because people like Telesun can go and buy this now rather than try and seek out the dead stock stuff, which is only going to last for so long. Yeah, I think it's good news. I think it's good news, and hopefully it can expand and more companies will start buying, especially American companies, if they still start buying from proximity. I think that would be a good thing.
Really good for Telesun as well, because their whole original USP was American made.
Yeah.
American fabric.
Specifically San Francisco made.
Yeah.
So,
You reckon brands like Leftfield are going to jump on it as well?
I believe
Because
so.
they use Vidalia at the moment, don't they? Which is
There's no reason why they can't use both.
Yeah.
There's and that's the beauty of it, is that options are always good, and it's nice to support different mills. So if the price is right, if the denim is nice, I'm sure they will go and use proximity as well.
Yeah, because I know, for example, Leftfield did some jeans at some point using like a particular mill in China that was making really nice selvage.
Yes.
I forgot what the name of them was. The name of them were, well, oh God. But it was like a pretty nice, like they did like a blue weft and a couple other interesting fabrics. But yeah, definitely, I guess by having the different fabrics, you got different options. So like Vidalia's maybe slightly cheaper price point wise, who knows? And they have that more sustainable focus of like ensuring it's American grown cotton, grown in an organic way, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like cone mills, proximity might be slightly more expensive, but it's the more kind of repro. And I guess it's cool to have options. And this idea of like at least 2 commercial denim mills existing in America that make selvage is 200% better than things were in recent years.
It'll be interesting to see how they kind of try to differentiate each other in terms of the end product, because obviously Vidalia is like, oh yeah, we use organic and American cotton and stuff, and it's like, unless the end product looks any kind of different or is a different feel or anything to proximity, then it's so it'll be interesting to see which paths they both kind of go down.
Well, I think
Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead,
David. Yeah, I was just going to say, from a Teleson point of view, I don't think fabric is the foremost thing that they look at. I think they care about it more that it's being made in USA, and they probably just want that old school denim, which is just going to be
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
You would say that, but like the more closely I look at their brand, because like I've kind of gotten them into them a bit more in recent years. They actually do seems to really matter to them, actually, in a way that I didn't think it initially did. And that, they're like each season, their fatigue pant, they're kind of sourcing out slightly different fabrics. So it's like this time we've got a Japanese ripstop. This time we've got a reverse olive sateen from Japan.
I just mean in denim specifically, they go for old school variety of, indigo, white, very old school. They're not going for high texture or slubbiness or characteristics. They just want that kind of solid pair of jeans. And yeah, from what I can see, it seems like the construction and what they are, where they're sourcing it is kind of more important. Maybe with the other items that, yes, they are probably looking at where they're sourced and how they, what the fabrics are like. But in terms of, if you look at the Teleson denim, which they've been putting out, it's been fairly kind of, standard. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's their kind of approach to it.
Yeah, I think with seasonal stuff, they've always tried to find other American fabrics if they can, but there's like very, very little available that's still woven in America. So they go, okay, so like, back when I was in university, I had this old Armee jacket. Okay, what's the closest fabric that we can find? Can we find it in America? No. Okay, where's the next best thing? Usually that's going to be Japan. They source some stuff from Italy, because I think one of them has like Italian family out there. And a couple of other places. So they'll always try and find the next best thing if they can't find the American thing.
Yeah, I guess that is true, that so much of their brand's inspired by kind of like old school punk and the Clash and that kind of stuff. So there definitely is kind of a particular aesthetic and sort of vibe they want to kind of stick to across their brand. And I don't know, I always kind of think of it as like kind of what would Henry Rollins wear, essentially.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I can kind of see like that. Yeah, that's true, that there is a kind of a particular aesthetic to their brand that they kind of stick to.
I think the fits are important. The fits and where it's made, I think that's probably takes precedence over the actual. I think they are particular in wanting the denim that was used by Levi's 50, 60 years ago. That I think that's what they're particular about, rather than it being sourcing all these different kind of denims. I think they just want that kind of nice standard 13 to 15 ounce indigo white type of denim, and that's kind of what they've gone for, and obviously the black jeans as well. So I think that's their approach to it.
Completely random aside, after one of our listeners kind of did a pretty cool post about Orslo fatigue pants, I've kind of been on the hunt for some fatigue pants for a while, and for what it's worth, they seem to be the only brand I can find that actually does a fatigue pant in a 34 inseam.
Orslo?
No, Telesun.
Oh, Telesun, okay.
Yeah, it's just really weird. I don't know what it is, but something about fatigue pants in particular, they always seem to be quite short in the inseam. And this is the first time, because I'm a 34 inseam, and it's the first time I've actually found someone who makes them. So I'm hoping to try them out at some point.
It's because Pete is like tall as fuck.
Yeah.
They do like 30. No, I think they've done 40 inch inseam.
And I think normally fatigue pants are, it's a functional piece. So they're kind of normally made with a shorter inseam because you're not going to be, wearing it very long, and it's also maybe some people would find it more difficult to hem, I guess. But even though it's just as easy as any other pair, I think just less trouble for people when they're buying. But yeah, I guess it's a little bit tricky for taller people.
Cool. So yeah, let's jump right into our discussion topic. So this month, we're talking about provenance. So basically where things are made. And that could be, where the fabric's made, where the leather's made, where the garment's assembled, etc. It's just kind of trying to talk a bit about, what are our thoughts on that? How much does it matter? And so, yeah, it's this whole thing of like, made in America, made in Japan, made in the UK. How do we feel about it? Does it matter? What should you be looking out for? And maybe some good examples of things we think are made the right way. So would anyone like to maybe kick things off? Any particular thoughts?
Tom, you're in the midst of this.
why are you calling me out? I was waiting then. I was like, yeah, I mean, as someone who has a brand that makes like 90% of, like 95% of the jeans we make in the UK, it's quite important, I think. Like anything, there's going to be exceptions to the rules, but having exceptions to the rules doesn't just mean you should throw the rules out. If there are factories in America or the UK or other kind of better first world countries to manufacture, that don't particularly pay their workers well or have particularly good working conditions, you shouldn't then rule out those countries as places to buy products from. Obviously, there's some stuff that we as a company need to source from other countries because it's not made here, like threads and buttons. But we try and do the vast majority of it here. Another big part of that is just the carbon footprint of having to ship, fabric and stuff all over the place, which I just find crazy. So some high street brands will weave the fabric in Pakistan, and then that gets shipped to Vietnam, and some of it gets like part assembled there, and then actually then that gets shipped over to the UK and then gets made into, or a couple of stitches gets put in to be made into a pair of shoes, and they stick a Union Jack on it and go, there you go, yeah, it's made in the UK. So it takes a little bit of research for provenance, but like anything, that there's going to be companies out there that will try to trick you and deceive you. Usually you can always tell by the price point as a general rule. Apart from brands maybe like Real McCoys who are a little bit on the expensive side, and some of the Japanese brands do have product lines that are made in China and sell it next to their kind of Japanese made lines. So just do your research, look inside labels, and if possible buy secondhand unless you're buying United Overalls. Go woo.
I guess maybe expanding on that a bit, like what specific questions should our listeners ask when they're looking at a garment, right? So like, what are the key points you want to think about in terms of like how something's made and where it's made?
I mean, usually, if a factory or a company is making stuff poorly, then a little bit of research will start to uncover that. Or if a company isn't very transparent about where they make something, if it's like, yes, we make this in America, it's like, okay, you're making it in New York, you're making it in San Francisco, you're making it in New Mexico, where's this made? That's usually a little bit of a red flag. Usually, again, if it's at a very low price point compared to what else is on the market. So take, for example, some of Loke's shoes, they'll be, 100 quid, 150, when, usually for kind of good UK made shoes, you're looking at like 200 plus. That's a good sign that, sub-assemblies are happening overseas, and then they send it over here, maybe just to, stick a bit of glue on it and stamp their logo.
Yeah, there's a few shoe companies who do that in the UK. And I guess the best way is to check on that particular company's website and see what the difference in terms of price is, and also what they say in the description. A lot of these companies sometimes they will hide things which are made overseas by not actually saying where it's made, and then when it's made in the UK they say, oh, made in the UK in this place or this place, so they don't always disclose those kind of areas. And this goes for a lot of brands, luxury and heritage, and the smaller ones. They will have the different price points for these garments, and they'll alter those descriptions, and sometimes they'll just not include where they make these things. So if you want to, support brands who are trying to do the right things, just have a look on their website, because if the brands are doing the right thing, they will usually shout and scream about it, and they will disclose where things are made. Because they'll want to be proud of that. But it's very difficult, because you get a lot of brands who greenwash and say this is made, zero waste, or this is sustainable. But that is that almost is a contradiction, because nothing is, to a degree, zero waste or sustainable, unless, I think it's very difficult to come to a place or brand and them say this is zero waste and sustainable. You're still using resources, you're still utilizing things, there's still a carbon footprint somewhere. So I think the only real sustainable brands are probably the really, really small makers who can achieve things by only making so much, so many items.
Yeah, and making to a quality that
or making to a quality. Yeah. So yeah, I think research is key if that is important for you, and I think that should be important for anybody who's purchasing garments these days, or anything really. I think we have come to a point where that's at some point things are going to run out, or they're going to impact what we're doing. So it's worth putting that time in. It's worth putting that time in.
I think it can be quite easy to highlight those companies that are greenwashing, because all of their kind of descriptions for products are just lots of marketing terms.
Yes.
All this zero waste and
exactly
circular making, or it's just all marketing terms, and they won't give any kind of definitive figures or no percentages. They'll just give all these kind of little marketing slang terms that make it nice and sellable and give people the peace of mind of, oh yeah, no waste, that sounds great. great.
Yeah.
And yet they're churning out like 200,000 units in like a day.
So not to be too critical or anything, but greenwashing and sustainability is a bit of a different topic than provenance, right? It's like where something's made and how it's made is not necessarily the same thing as like how sustainably is it made. I mean, obviously it's a factor, but this is I think we're trying to kind of help more break down like when you're buying something and someone says it's made in location X, how much does that matter? And while I was listening to you guys, I was kind of thinking about like what's a framework that people need to think about as buyers. And I think maybe there's 3 points. So the first is like the craftsmanship, the makesmanship. How do you evaluate where it was made, and does that mean it was made well? And the second point is, I guess, kind of sourcing in the materials, right? So it's like, how do you evaluate if the source materials are, where they come from, are they good, et cetera? And then the third bit is kind of the raw, non-manufactured materials. So like the raw leather, cotton, whatever, where does that come from? And does it matter how it was turned into fabric? So I don't know, maybe like kind of going backwards from the end customer to kind of, a plant or a cow. First, how do we feel about the question of makesmanship, craftsmanship? So like, how does someone go about discerning whether something was made well, and how do you separate that from simply just where was it made?
I mean, I think in terms of craftsmanship, it's something that can change like in a blink of an eye for a lot of companies. So like, if you take like Dana boots, for example, they used to be kind of super high for making boots. Their hiking boots were, above and beyond like, some of the best in the world. And then I think they got bought out like 10 or so years ago. And then apparently just the quality just absolutely crashed. Obviously if a company and a manufacturer has the history behind them, it's going to be more likely that they are better quality because you've got the skills and the craftsmanship over time. I watched quite a good video about a little factory that makes sable hairbrushes, and all the women in the factory have worked there for 30, 40 years. And they can by eye see, if one of the hairs is ever so slightly out on the brush. And these were brushes given to like, Queen Victoria back in the Victorian times and stuff. That's that level of craftsmanship that, only these women can achieve. And same thing with RM Williams. They've got people that have worked there for 30, 40 years. They're third generation workers. Their grandmothers and grandfathers were like best friends with old Reginald Murray Williams. Give him his full name, Flying Gillar. Sorry, Kevin.
You're right, mate.
And to do things like the plaited kangaroo leather belts takes you like 2 years minimum to learn. And then you've got to do like another year just doing like practice ones like the whole time. But then again, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but like, what should our listeners look for, right? Because like, as a kind of counter argument, Alden's still, I think, owned by its original owners, and it's been around since the 1800s. But on their Facebook group, like Alden fans, whatever, you're seeing shoes left and right where the welt's screwed up, the stitching's missed. I had to send my Shell Cordovan boots back to get like the stitching redone when it was falling apart. So like, what can people who listen to the podcast actually do themselves when evaluating brands? And I mean, obviously you mentioned a bit about online research, but like when you're holding something in your hand or looking at pictures of it online, like what can we do to actually ensure we're evaluating the quality?
Well, it's quite difficult because it comes down to research and being able to compare it to products which came out from the past. That's the only way you're going to be able to tell if you're kind of, unless you're an experienced person in looking at construction details of all these items, you're not going to know whether something is good or not by looking at it. You need to be able to compare, and that's not a lot of people will want to do that. Maybe our listeners would, because they care about these things, but the general public, I don't think will turn a pair of jeans inside out and look at how Are they overlocked? Are they, is it a felt seam? Is it, what kind of construction's gone into it? So yeah, the best way is to compare and to see how things were made. Yeah,
a combination of looking up reviews from people who have tried similar products and have experience at that level of craftsmanship, and going into shops or stores that have similar products that may be comparisons in terms of quality. If you go into a shoe store and then compare that pair of Aldens with any other shoes that are at that similar kind of level, that's going to be really the only way. I mean, obviously brand marketing and stuff does push the name out and blah blah blah, but you go into that store and be like, oh, there's this niche little shoe brand that I've never heard of, it's not really marketed, but this store stocks it. I can see by having them just in my hand and maybe trying them on that this little niche brand is far and above what the others do.
Yeah, I mean, to make an analogy, is like, how do you know something tastes good when you go into a restaurant? It's because you've tasted things similarly in the past, and then you can compare it to those those kind of foods you had. But if you've only gone to one place and you've tried steak and it's been burnt to bits, and that's your only experience in it, you might say, oh, this is great, this is fantastic steak, it's it's been made wonderfully.
How dare you?
Exactly. But if you had nothing to compare it to in the past, then your point is is not going to be as valuable as someone who eats steak on a weekly basis, for example, and who's tried different styles and different meats from different parts of the world and so forth. So I think experience and research is the key factor to these things, and educating yourself, going back to educating yourself about how things are done and how things should be done properly. And that's also a trust thing, is like, how much do you trust the brand that you're buying from? And once you do find those brands, it's probably a good thing to stick with them, because if they deliver goods which you're happy with, and you've seen they've held up for months, years, what have you, then you can, okay, I've got confidence in this brand, and you support them through that. So I think that's the best way to go about it. But if you're just starting off, I think, yeah, you need to read, you need to look, you need to listen to people who've had the experience, and that can be quite difficult, because there's a lot of experts out there, especially on the internet now, who are claiming this kind of boot is the best, or this kind of jacket is the best, but they might not necessarily be giving you real insightful information, because one, it could be they don't have that much experience themselves, or they've been given the things, given money, or given these products for free. So it's really difficult to find sometimes where's the best place to research these kind of things. But ultimately that's the struggle that we have, and that's the way you need to educate yourself, is by looking and seeing.
It feels like there's places you can go where marketing is somewhat abstracted from the conversation. So like, if you go to, I mean, I guess kind of just from personal experience, if like you go to a Facebook group of whatever brand it is, right? So like, I'm in the Filson Facebook group or the Alden Facebook group, I find that those are echo chambers, because everyone's obsessed with that brand, and someone who's got like 10 different Filson duffels is obviously going to tell you they're amazing, or someone who's got like 100 pairs of Alden boots, whatever. So I kind of realized I can't go there. And then like, I can't really do Instagram either, because Instagram in some shape or fashion is like, you're either marketing yourself, or you're marketing for a brand, or you're, there's always this kind of marketing thing. And so for me, it feels like the only places where you can kind of get non-subjective opinions. I mean, everything's subjective because it's an opinion, but the closest thing you can get to objectivity feels like maybe like the Reddit channels for like Goodyear welted. People get really critical about shoes there on Goodyear welt, or like the raw denim one.
I think forums can be a really good place if you're looking for information on, the Fedora Lounge, and the Salt, Super Denim and other boards. They hold a lot of information. It can be, again, difficult to wade through a lot of the threads and the stuff that doesn't really matter, but people do go into lengthy criticisms and reviews and their actual real world experiences with these items. So you're probably more likely, I think sometimes with Reddit, it can fall into people who have just started into this hobby and they're just finding themselves, and it's like I'm talking about the raw denim one, for example. It's when I used to be on there, it's like a lot of people who had just got into denim, which was, I was one of them, and it's people who are just buying up 5 pairs of jeans in their first year because they're like super excited about the whole thing, and they're looking at different weft colors and all this kind of all the fun stuff that you get excited about. So there's that. I don't know how raw denim is on Reddit these days, but that was my experience back in the day.
I think it's still pretty accurate. There's a lot of like fit pics, help me find my first pair. So it's definitely got a bit more of a newbie bias, whereas like the Goodyear welt Reddit is much more kind of like not aficionados, but
it's more experienced people who've usually have high amount of boots in their collection. There's almost a collector's kind of vibe, I think, about Goodyear welt. Although there is some great reviews on there and some great guides on there. So yeah, I think that's that. And what was the second part of your
but before I quickly move on, actually, I just want to also throw out Style Forum. That's still a really great resource as well, alongside Superfuture for forums. The second point was around kind of fabric and material. So it's like there's one thing to say like, okay, where was this thing made, right? So like Teletons are sewn in San Francisco, Pure Blue Japans are sewn somewhere in Okayama. I don't know, Red Wings are sewn in Minnesota. But I guess the second question is kind of the provenance of the materials used, right? So like the first thing that comes to mind is like RGT will have, I think, actually I can look at my jacket. They usually have that kind of like made in USA of Japanese fabric tag. So they're kind of like touting where their material comes from. Mm-hmm. Or like where someone like a Red Wing, they make their own leather in the States, but they don't even tell you that they make their own leather. How do you all feel about the provenance of the materials and where they come from, and how much does that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite important. Again, as I said, there's no point shipping fabric halfway across the road to get it made somewhere and then shipping it halfway across the world again to be in a storeroom and then ship it out to the person. I think kind of a brand seems a bit more trustworthy if you see in the product description, made with Kaihara Mills denim or blah blah blah. There's more transparency to it. And you kind of are like, I can then, compare that Kaihara denim to another brand's, what they have got from Kaihara denim. And, they might have a 16 ounce or, this might be a 14 ounce. Adds a bit more discussion to the product, a bit more transparency. And, it's not just, sourced from some random Turkish mill that's churning out, super, super wide fake selvage denim.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting thought, and it just, randomly back to Red Wing again, but like they have that wedge sole they put on a lot of their boots, and I recently actually discovered that's actually a Vibram Christie sole. They just don't have the Vibram logo printed on it, So they're quite an interesting brand in that they're really proud of their like made in USA element, but they like don't tell you that they actually are in fact using a Vibram sole, or they don't tell you that they actually make their own leather. They kind of like abstract that away. Whereas if you look at a brand like, I don't know, I mean, it's a different price point, so it's not really apples to apples, but like a Viberg, you know, they tell you where their soles are coming from. They tell you what their leather comes from. Yeah, I'm just wondering if that says something about the product, or like compared to like, you know, a jean where they tell you where their denim comes from, what mill made it, versus a jean that doesn't, and whether that matters.
I mean, I think like as you kind of go up the price point, there would usually be more and more transparency as to where things are from. So, you know, when you look at, you know, super high end boots, then they're saying, oh, you know, the leather midsole is, you know, sourced from this particular leather factory, while the rest of the leather, you know, for the different way it needs to be constructed is from a slightly different one. So you know, because Red Wing sits in that midpoint, you're kind of always going to expect maybe some of the parts to be outsourced. It's you know, it's going to be one of those things, you know, just like, you know, if you bought some nudie jeans, they're probably not going to be very specific about, you know, where the fabric is from. I know they do probably with some. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things.
Do we think it's quite a modern marketing thing to break down exactly where everything comes from, rather than being, you know, 50, 60 years ago, was it all kind of broken down, you know, this part comes from there, this part comes from there. It probably wouldn't delve so deeply into those kind of details. I think this is, you know, with the new age of trying to be transparent and try to sell people things, you're, you know, using the mills as a, you know, you're kind of tapping into their heritage. So when you see something is made by, you know, Kaihara, you kind of know, okay, it's a quality denim, it's made properly, it's on a, you know, it's selvage, raw denim, blah blah blah, all these kind of things. Or if you're looking at leather products, okay, this has been made in, you know, in this tannery in Italy, and you know, it's they, you know, for a fact that they produce great leathers. So okay, I know what I'm getting. It's almost, these places have become brands in their own right. When, you know, when you say Candiani, you get, you know, it's not just a mill anymore. It's okay, this is a big brand, and you know, they're doing things the right way, and they're producing great, you know, great fabrics. So I think it's also a cross-marketing kind of thing these days.
I think historically it's always been a fairly kind of, especially kind of in high-end like suiting and stuff like that, it's been like, oh, yes, you've gotten this particular fabric from the UK, you know, it's a tweed.
Yes.
So, you know, so that there was always a certain amount, and I think they've kind of probably taken that historical spin on it, amped it to 100, and, you know, applied it to, you know, all products in a product label, you know, not just, oh, my tweed Crombie and Fitch jacket, or my Pendleton blah blah blah, you know. So there's always been these kind of like big mill names, but certainly kind of in terms of leather, I don't think that was ever really a thing. Obviously Horween's been going for a long time, but you know, if you looked 30-40 years ago, you wouldn't have seen their name on anything. So, you know, maybe in product classes where that, you know, maybe didn't happen so much before, it's become more of a thing, you know, in terms of shoes and stuff. You know, they're talking about, you know, where the leather's from and, you know, what type of leather and stuff.
Yeah, I think back in the day, like 60s and kind of before that, the focus really was, if they're going to talk about stuff like that, it's more about where the final item was made. So, you know, we've tying in with the whole, with kind of our thing, like the whole like American made jeans has always been a big thing. You know, Levi's proudly making it, and then that goes, I mean, you can to an extent highlight the fact that there's some kind of, you know, especially with the denim scene, or kind of workwear, you go back far enough and there was actually a you know, an element of xenophobia and racism in there to help sell those items, with the whole, you know, white labor only production side, because they had people had these unfounded issues with a lot of the kind of Chinese labor coming over to work in America. And hence a lot of these brands were then saying, oh, well, our stuff is only made by white people. And then that's now, obviously, thank God that's disappeared. But the aspect of this is made in this country and stuff has always kind of been there.
Just to throw it out there, it gets me thinking a bit about how like the importance of this subject has kind of changed over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think of that episode of Portlandia where they go to like the chicken restaurant and they want to know like, where was the chicken raised? Was it raised in a friendly way? What was its name? Did it have children? Was it having fun? This kind of like over-indexing on like, is this chicken I'm eating of the appropriate provenance? And I'm wondering a bit if maybe like as a society, we're just kind of overthinking this stuff a bit, in that, before third wave coffee, no one really gave a shit where your coffee came from. It was just kind of like, is it good coffee or is it not? Or like, I guess if you're a wine buyer, maybe you cared about where your wine came from. But for most people, like, a French person would just buy a good wine from the appropriate appellation. It's like, if it's from this appellation, it's good enough. Actually, that's a bad example. But I wonder if we've kind of like third wave-ified or provenance-ified everything these days. So like, unless it's like a tech gadget where you don't really care, but if it's like something that you can become a snob about in some way, whether it's boot snob, jean snob, bag snob, mustache wax snob, whatever. Like, I wonder if we're just overthinking this stuff. And it.
I think it's all, these brands are trying to sell you their products using a story, right? So I think these elements are all part of that story that they're trying to build around their brand. And obviously, the more of these kind of things that they can use, the better, right? Because as you say, like, would you buy a pair of jeans that it's sewn in the UK or whatever, but if you don't know where the denim is coming from, would you then buy them? And probably, as we who are in this kind of like niche little area, we know that we want to know those kind of things. So yeah, if they leave it out, then we know, okay, there's something wrong here. If they don't tell you where the denim is coming from or where something is coming from or where something's made, because we're all kind of like expecting it as well, I would say.
Yeah, I think the issue is like over the last 10, 20 years, we're now in the age of information where anyone can look things up, find out information from halfway across the world. For example, when Leftfield were like, oh yeah, we're using Xinjiang cotton now, and it's like, quick Google, slave labor issues. That's that's not good.
Not great.
Suddenly that works against the brand instead of working for them. No matter how much they might market spiel it, it's like bam, that is instantly a black mark on your company almost. So companies in the last 10, 20 years have had to up their game. Get provenance on every single aspect of the brand to separate it out from any other potential competitors on the market. If you looked 100 years ago, it's like, oh yes, I've got this tweed coat. Oh cool, where's tweed from? Scotland. Oh nice, that must mean it's got a nice label inside the jacket. Must be great quality. That's where the conversation will end. But there's so much information out there that it only takes like 5-10 minutes of a quick Google, and you can find out the vast majority of where a company gets their stuff from.
Yeah, I guess on that note, anyone listening to our podcast will already have a lot of this knowledge because this is a niche podcast and we have a niche hobby, so it's kind of like a niche of a niche. But does everyone kind of have any recommendations of who they think is making things right? Considering all these factors we've just talked about, like any recommendations?
There's this like little English brand called Unite. Oh, no.
I've heard their shit.
Oh, well, fuck you then. I mean, like, obviously Tellefson's one, all the Japanese brands that make in Japan with Japanese fabric, they've got the provenance there. Don't know if anyone else has got any particular
Probably should shout out Black Horse Lane as well.
Black Horse.
kind of goes without saying, but kind of they obviously, having seen their jeans make some of the best quality jeans that you can buy. I think there's kind of so many out there that you can say that are really good. It's almost too many to mention.
Hyatt in Wales.
Yeah.
Small, kind of very, very small factory doing their thing. Basically keep propping up a town.
Near Cardigan, aren't they?
Yeah. But also, I think these days one of the things is kind of where is good provenance seems to be changing. And I previously there used to be a snobbery about kind of things like made in China, as we've seen certain brands using hashtags. But I mean, obviously Ilya bought, was it the Flame Panda boots recently?
Flame Panda, yeah.
From what you said, amazing quality, as good as you'd buy from America, Japan. And it's made in China, so
I think when you're looking at small one-man brands or small workshops, I think the quality will probably jump up versus the rest of the country because they can control, and they're looking at a craft-based thing, so it's a lot easier to have these high standards. I mean, the Flame Panda boots are some of the best boots that you'll find anywhere in the world for a casual kind of boot. So it doesn't matter that it's made in China. And you can find a lot of good boot makers in Indonesia now. I mean, they're popping up all the time. I think if you're looking at the smaller brands, it really doesn't matter where it's from. It
almost, like, when it's small scale, it becomes less where and more who.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you've got brands like Grant Stone that are on a slightly higher production scale, kind of maybe closer to some of like the maybe not quite Red Wing Heritage size, but they're closest, maybe kind of closer to a brand like Truman or Viberg on the scale of production, and their stuff is all made in China in a factory, and by all accounts it's made to a very high standard, which is another great one to kind of push back on that old made in China adage.
There's a weird one about Grant Stone, and it gets into the whole thing of like culture and all that stuff, but it's like one of their kind of big marketing things is that, like, the folks who run Grant Stone are veterans in the industry. And if you look at their website and like interviews with them, without saying another way, it's like it's run by white Americans who have moved to China and set up a factory. And it's like, it's a weird one. Whereas, like, if you look at Flame Panda, we actually don't even know who he is. He's kind of an enigma, right? He's just a person who speaks through their products in the same way that, like, Daft Punk never showed who they were, right? They just spoke through their music. And I'm wondering, like, on Grant Stone,
have to wash their jeans.
But yeah, I'm just wondering what the Grant Stone thing is it like, are they trying to sell it by saying, like, we are made in China, but we're not a Chinese brand, and is that okay, and is that their approach? Whereas, like, Flame Panda, we don't even know who he is, we just see his product, or even could be her product, and it's just incredible, right? So it's interesting.
I don't know. I always got the vibe with Grant Stone that they are saying we are an American firm, but our production is done in China, and we have got this great relationship with a factory that we've had prior to forming Grant Stone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we had this actually. What was it, a couple of weeks ago on the one of the Facebook groups? The discussion got raised about things like this with Giles from Ironheart.
Yeah, I think that was about the catalyst for this episode.
Yeah,
was that thread?
Yeah, like Papa Nui is an Australian dude. He designs everything in Australia. But the vast majority of his production is done by John Lofgren in Japan. So is he an Australian brand or is he a Japanese brand? I mean, ultimately, Ilya and I kind of came to the decision that it's an Australian brand. It just happens to be that the manufacturing is, he manufactures his stuff out there. He outsources it, but he designs it all himself.
But just to leverage this conversation here, doesn't matter what kind of brand he is, right? Like, why do we even need to label Rapa Nui as being a brand of X, right?
Rapa Nui, not Rapa Nui.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Parappa the Rapa Nui.
Rapa Nui, what?
Yeah,
I think Rapa Nui might be that
Selvedge.
that Isle of Wight brand that makes like t-shirts, organic t-shirts or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Parappa the Rapa Nui. Do we actually really care? And does it matter where they're from, right? At the end of the day.
I think if the brand itself actually said, "Oh, we're a Japanese brand," and then marketed it as such, then it'd be like, "Yeah, but you're an Australian guy and you do most of the design." Like, Rapa Nui doesn't say, "I am this or that." It's just like, "Here's some nice hats."
Yeah, he just says South Pacific. Keeps it super vague, and for him, that's because it ties into the, World War II. Operations and Pacific War, the Pacific theater aesthetic that he goes for, so he can keep it really vague.
It's like if a shoe brand was like, "We're an English brand, we make in India." Then you start raising the questions of, well, no, not really. But in his case, and a lot of these other brands that may not specifically, they say the product is made here, but they don't say whether they're this type of brand or that type of brand, because then you're almost adding false provenance to it.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying that if an English brand would manufacture everything in India or in Pakistan or wherever, they can't call themselves an English brand?
No. In my mind, that's not an English brand.
See, I
don't know. I
say they
with
still
that.
technically can, legally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, legally.
Because I'm looking at it here now, legally, and this is where it starts to all get funky. If their head office is based in London, then they're a British, they're an English company, and that's where they will be based for tax purposes and all that. And this is really boring. Obviously, I'm now looking at a business side rather than a manufacturing side.
Yeah, but
now we're really in the discussion topic. Arguably, this is what it's really about.
You go into a Jack Wills shop and it's like, oh, authentically British and British brand, la la la. Go through the labels, fucking none of it's British.
Oh yeah.
I think the difference. Yeah, I think the difference is it's a British brand, but not made in Britain.
Yeah,
they're not saying like we're made in Britain.
Yeah,
they're a British brand.
Yeah, but it's almost like they say everything but made in Britain to make it seem like it's a British brand. It's like Superdry. They're like, oh, it's all Japanese. It's a Japanese brand. It's like, well, no, it's all made in like Pakistan or wherever, and the guys are English as well.
It's a British brand.
The same guys who made Bench, and it's like it's literally got zero to do with Japan at all. Like zero, nothing. And they just like steal a bunch of like logos from Japanese products and change it to Superdry, and it's like, other brands who say they are British and make stuff overseas are doing exactly the same thing.
I suppose when brands get big enough, though, that's where the shift in that kind of like provenance shift happens, and because they're less they don't care about that, to be honest, because they're now at the point where it's about profit margins. Whereas smaller brands, especially like the ones we kind of deal with, they're the ones where it is more important to them.
It almost feels like that. Kind of going back to that whole like third wave-ifying everything or craftifying everything notion kind of comes back into play here. So like I guess referencing beer, they've got a really interesting system where it's like if you're a home brewery, you make up to this many bottles, craft brewery up to this many, micro, macro, this many, that many, right? So there's kind of almost like classifiers for stuff like that. I wonder if we almost need that for our hobby or style, whatever you want to call it. All right, it's not a hobby. I keep forgetting that as well.
Lifestyle,
I
David.
think it would be going too far.
Yeah, it's just interesting
Going
because it's
that
like, if someone's making something at home, that doesn't mean it's necessarily good, right? So if I launched a craft brand tomorrow, my
Making
clothes would be
woggles.
shit. What's that?
Making woggles.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It would be shit quality because like I'm not very skilled, right? But like there's a lot of one-man brands or one-woman brands that are amazing. But then there's like a point where you've kind of scaled up and you're at the sweet spot where you've got a craft operation, 10, 20 people, kind of like the Vibergs, we mentioned Black Horse Lane, that kind of stuff, where you're in that kind of like, you're still craft scale, but you're big enough to be doing something with consistency and with a sufficient eye on the quality. But then there's a point where you scale too big and you start having to kind of like you begin outsourcing your production, right? So even like Filson, I know a lot of their stuff is still sewn at their factory in Seattle, but not everything, right? Whereas I think someone like Shot New York City, I can't, don't quote me on this, but I think everything they sell is sewn at that factory in New York. So there's almost like a point where
in terms of leather, that would be.
Okay, so all the leather garments in particular. Okay.
Yeah, lots of like MA1 jackets and stuff that they sell on ASOS and stuff.
But it's almost like at a point stuff goes from being beyond craft, let's call it, and it gets into micro production, and then macro production. A brand like Arc'teryx is macro. Like you almost can't buy anything anymore that they actually make in Vancouver, unless you're spending like $1,000 on a Valence jacket. Everything else is made overseas now.
I think we're seeing that with some of the brands that we deal with. So the one that has been mentioned before on this podcast, and I know other people within the scene have highlighted it, was 316 outsourcing a lot of their shirt production to India, whereas their denim is still made in LA, and then their hoodies are made in Canada, I think, still.
It's an interesting one. I actually wouldn't complain per se in that case, because let's say when they did make their shirts in America in the past, like they would sell these unsanforized shirts that would like shrink a whole size.
Yeah.
when you bought them. I mean, it really effing pissed me off because it's like with the jean and sanforization, I can calculate what my jeans are going to fit like after I wash them. But with shirts, there's not really so much of a standard because every shirt fabric's so different. And it was like a gamble as to what I was going to buy. And so it's interesting to say like, okay, by moving the shirt production overseas, have they taken that gamble out of buying their shirts? Because I won't buy them anymore because I don't trust them. And like maybe it's just having that gamble because of the provenance, whatever they get their fabric from, but just at a bigger scale. So like, making more people struggle to get a shirt that fits, or maybe now by moving abroad, their shirt production, they're able to actually bring consistency to their makesmanship, and you can like know what size shirt you're going to get. I wonder like how that's going to play out.
I think that was more of a supply chain issue rather than a and I think they're still using Japanese fabric for these shirts in some instances. So, and that's not going to necessarily change. It's more about where did they source their fabrics, and how have those fabrics been treated before they've been sewn, or if they're washing afterwards. So I think that's a slightly different thing there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, are there any brands, because like we get into a bit of a trust thing here, right? Where it's like trusting where your garment's made, trusting how it's made, and maybe call me a bit OCD because I've got like a garment measuring spreadsheet where I measure shirts, jeans, jackets, shoes.
Oh my God.
I should post some pictures on Instagram. I've got like a freaking spreadsheet where I look at garment calculations.
That
But
doesn't
I wonder.
surprise me.
I wonder if there's any brands that like we kind of like trust off the shelf, and that we know if we buy something from them, it's going to be made well, it's going to fit well, it's going to last, and like there's almost kind of, you don't have to worry about it. Do we feel that there are any brands that are to that caliber?
I always quite like Knickerbocker manufactured goods, like all made in New York, and like good Western sizing and like decent quality. You know, never like super amazing quality, but like, you know, middle park. I know it's going to last and look quite good. It's got, you know, not too much of a heritage vintage feel or fit, but still some cool details. Yeah, I always like them. I don't know why. I'm just always drawn to that stuff.
I think there are brands who you can trust with items, but it's also, you know, every garment line is going to be slightly different. So, you know, one shirt is going to be different from the other because of the fabric. You know, fabric behaves differently depending whether you're buying a flannel, chambray, what have you. So the important thing is when that goes on their website, that they're giving you the best information in terms of how to size. I think that's the important part of it, because yeah, obviously the factories will have certain quality control measures, but sometimes these, you know, the fabrics behaves differently, and they've made this batch and it's slightly different. So it's not like necessarily, oh, everything has to go back to the factory and be remade again. You just say, okay, this line of shirts runs big or runs small, and you provide the best measurements that you can for those garments. And are they going to shrink? Are they not going to shrink? You know, that it's all about providing that information to the customer so they can make that decision. And yeah, I think that there's brands who provide that kind of information quite well. For me personally, Mr. Freedom has always been reliable. I know how to size on their garments. If I'm buying a 42, I kind of know it's going to be a 42. I know how the shirts fit. Yeah, I'm kind of safe. I can, you know, buy online directly from the US, and not necessarily worry too much how it's going to come up. So yeah, I kind of look at those kind of brands, and also it's the retailers which is as important. So again, I know if I buy something from Sandon & Strange or Rivet & Hide, their measurements are going to be like top notch, and they're going to be really reflective. And if I need them to, they will measure that garment for me, you know, and I will have something that fits. So yeah, I can't necessarily say, oh, it has to be, you know, everything's going to be always reliable from every brand, because it's hard to control those kind of things because there's a human element to it. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Yeah, I agree with that. I always still like to try things on. I don't know what it is, but trusting 100%, I don't think I'll ever. Which is totally fine, right?
Yeah.
You know, as Ilya says, things behave differently, so that's absolutely fine.
Kevin doesn't trust any of us.
No, not at all. Not at all. Why do you think I moved to the other side of the world?
Really cool.
But I completely agree with, especially with retailers as well. I've recently come across James Dand in the US, a little shop in Indianapolis, I think. And like their description of sizing, and also like of what the guy in the photo is wearing, which size, what he usually wears, also what other customers usually buy. So like, for example, in a lot of the Ironheart t-shirts, I was looking at those the other day, and it said like usually everyone sizes up one size because after washing it shrinks a little bit. You know, all those kind of like little small details. They're absolutely amazing to have. So every time I go to a different site now where there's barely any information or not even a size chart, I'm lost, you know, and then, yeah, I skip that usually. But I'm very old school in that sense, like, especially with these kind of things. I do online shop quite a bit, but with these quality, you know, products where you do put a bit of money in, I want to make sure that it fits right as well. So I do like to try things on, which is a bit hard here in Australia because there's not many shops that stock many brands. But
yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
So I feel like any brand I think of even my most loved ones like RGT, I've gotten stung, either something didn't fit. Like, I remember their jumper shirt like comes up a size smaller than their other shirts, or like their wax canvas supply jackets fit different than their denim supply jackets, and that kind of stuff. So like I can't think of like one brand who's got it perfect where I haven't been stung. And even retailers, like I've had retailers, get me to size down, and it didn't work. And even like, the best example of like, Rivet and Hide, they've got super consistent sizing, super consistent measurements. I bought a 9 Live shirt, and actually the pattern let me down, and it's like a raglan sleeve pattern, and like it doesn't give you much like pull across the back, even though the metrics are all perfect. And so it's like, I measured the shit out of it. They've got good consistency. It's perfect sizing, still doesn't work. And so it's almost like no matter how you slice it, there's no way to get it perfect. And yeah, I think that notion of like, just go try it on, don't shop online, watch out for the sales if you need to get a deal, but still try and pop in person if you can and have that experience is that's almost the provenance that matters, right? To maybe wrap up this discussion topic. The real provenance isn't where it's made, where the fabric comes from, where the cows were raised, but where's that shop that you can go to and get that kind of local expertise and kind of local advice in person. Boom, tying it all together.
People are the real provenance.
Yes.
People, yeah, that's it.
Cool. I know some folks have to jump because we're at 11, but should we do a bit of Q&A or?
Yeah,
that sounds good.
So for anyone who's got to jump, maybe you grab questions.
Shall we do Work and War's second question, as someone just suggested? Cool. So Work and War asked us, if you had to eat one podcast member, who would it be? I was going to say definitely not Tom, because I feel he'd enjoy it too much.
Know me so well. Do you know what? I'd eat
at
Kevin.
the dinner table.
I think Kevin's, probably got a great diet out in Australia, lots of seafood and stuff, and I love seafood, so yeah.
A bit smelly. Fish.
I love fish.
Oh, that's good then. No, I'm tiny, man. You won't have a lot on. I don't have a lot of fat or muscle on me, so
that's right.
you
I
probably
feel like quality over quantity.
Not Andy with his extra Christmas. Christmas
yeah, exactly.
I think you'll find that
mentioned.
makes me extra tender.
Yeah, exactly. Or keep it nice and moist when roasting in the oven.
I think
in David's pizza oven.
Yeah.
I think the question you also need to bring into this is, which one of us would be the easiest to catch and subdue?
Oh, I've got a dodgy knee, so probably me.
Oh, Lex.
I couldn't run very fast.
you just cycle away from us. I think Tom would be easy to catch because he wouldn't run.
Oh no! Don't catch me.
we are veering into some proper Armin Meavis territory here.
I knew it would from that question. Oh, David's ready.
That's to protect myself. Gotta have that serrated knife to stay safe. Cool. All right. Someone wanted to grab the next question.
Yeah, how to best wear a bandana without looking weird, and this is from Charlie Knee 667. It depends what you are wanting to wear the bandana for. Are you wanting to wear it to mop sweat? Are you wanting to wear it to protect your face from dust? Are you wanting to wear it to show what proclivities you're involved in? Because I mean, that's that one's easy.
I can answer that one.
You've got the hanky game. I know, so that's fine.
I think we can actually rely upon American society during the COVID pandemic for advice. So what you should do is you tie the bandana around your face, but really, really loose. That way it doesn't actually cover your mouth. It doesn't actually block those particulates. And you should drop it below your nose. That way your nose is safely exposed to the environment, getting good airflow. I think that's how you're supposed to wear a bandana.
Definitely.
Fucking mask wearers with their noses out. If you're gonna wear a mask, wear it properly.
Just want to carry like a long twig, and just jam it up their
Poke 'em in the
noses.
nose.
Yeah.
I think the answer to wearing a bandana appropriately goes back to that same question of something else earlier in the episode around. Wearing hats, right? It's like no matter how you wear a bandana, you're going to look a bit silly unless you're confident enough to not think you look silly. So I think it's all about self-confidence. If you've got self-confidence, any way to wear a bandana is the right way.
Tie it around your head like Vasquez in Aliens. There you go. That's the best look.
Yeah. Cool.
Go on.
Next question, anybody?
Yeah, let's do one from Buster the Human. If you had to wear one pair of jeans for the rest of your life, which one?
Oh, how much time do we have for this?
Yeah.
That is.
I'd probably go with my Eat Dust Fit 73, just because it was my first pair and are still going after 10 years. So I reckon they can go for another 50. Do I give myself 50 more years? I don't know. Something like that.
I would go for the ED1 United.
Such.
What else was I going to say?
I would pick my TCB 40s because they're my most recent pair, which I've really loved. I love the fit, love the denim, and yeah, I can just see myself wearing them for years on in. That'll be my pick.
Yeah, I'll be the same. It'll be my most recent pair, so that's my only 288 ZRs, because they are the comfiest pair that I own at the moment.
Yeah, I'd probably say one of my vintage Levi's, true vintage 1970s Redline 501s, which I've had.
They're
for
a rodeo
years.
Cowboy, a rodeo clown pair.
Yeah, no, not the rodeo clown pair. But maybe I should live in them.
Converts into a shelter.
I'm going to say Tanuki's regular straight fit, or probably, honestly, any other brand's regular straight fit, because they're kind of style agnostic. Straight leg jeans, never going to really go in or out of style. The waistband sits like actually at my hip bone, so I can tuck a shirt in, or I can leave it tucked out. And it's just that little bit more relaxed and comfortable. So as I'm getting older, I'm less excited to like wear ball busters or super tight fits. So it's sort of like as I get old and curmudgeonly, I'll still be comfortable.
Cool.
Nice.
Are we getting towards the end now? Is that enough for questions?
Feel free to crack on. I've got to go, unfortunately. So
yeah.
I will speak to you all.
Ciao, Bella.
Bye, Andy.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you
Cool.
want to tackle another one or just finish there?
Yeah, grab one, Ilya. Why not?
What about Moon Anchor Sons? Or the other class one?
Yeah,
Cool.
so our friend Ricardo at Moon Anchor Sun, if you could work for and or be endorsed by one brand, which one would it be and why? Tom?
Oh.
Not allowed to say United Overalls.
I can't endorse myself. But I'll try. That's really tough. Just one brand. I don't know. TCB would be a good shout, but I feel a little bit limited.
I'd probably jump in and say Levi's, and I know it's not the most exciting brand, but just to see the archive they have over in San Francisco.
That's true. Get to visit everything. I'd maybe say like someone like Stevenson, just because you would get some wacky outfits every season. Or Gelato. Stevenson or Gelato. Or Freewheelers. Actually, yeah, no, Freewheelers. Yeah. Get that Freewheelers stuff. Yes.
I would probably go for Mr. Freedom because I could wear from top to bottom all his goods. I love Christoph's point of reference in terms of design. Love his clothing, obviously. Yeah, so he would be an easy one to endorse for me as well, because I feel he does things in the right way, not just from a design point of view, but sourcing things and the people he works with, just the whole element and the vibe around the brand, I think is very appealing to me. I mean, I could easily pick Real McCoys, but it's hard to see, a little bit kind of the people behind the brand. They're kind of, it's a hidden element. Whereas with Mr. Freedom, you can actually see, the people who stand behind the brand.
Yeah, it goes a little bit above just being repro.
Yes, definitely. I love that aspect, and yeah, that'll be my choice.
What about you, David?
I've got kind of three answers, quick fire ones. I would say growing up, it would have been Arc'teryx, because they've kind of just inspired my general design aesthetic of most things I like in my life. I just love everything they've always been. They've just been so ahead of the game whenever they did anything. In denim, I'd say RGT, because I think he's, Carl's pushing denim design and kind of garment design in a way that other brands may not. I mean, I like the way he's pushing it, like the makesmanship, the craft, the design. I just love his kind of creative ideas. And I'd also kind of self-servingly say Standard and Strange, because they sponsor like every other damn menswear podcast, and they should sponsor us too. Hook us up with free clothes.
Yeah.
Free clothes, free boots. No, but I'm being a bit facetious there.
I'm a large.
These are my sizes.
33 inch. Go on.
I'll probably go for Studio d'Artisan. Just because they got a little bit of everything, like jeans, shirts, t-shirts, jackets, sweats. And as I've mentioned a couple of times before, I'm quite a sucker for like funkier shirts, so with patterns and things like that. And they do quite a lot of that with indigo, but also with other kind of Japanese fabrics. So yeah, that probably would be the one that I go for.
They were the first that came to mind to me, actually. So yeah, good choice.
Thanks.
Is that everybody?
Think so.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, maybe let's draw episode, I think this is 16, our first episode of 2022 to a close. As always, please. Go ahead.
Did we make it through without Tom insulting anyone this week?
There's definitely a few bits I'll need to edit out.
I do feel you've got some editing to.
I was close.
Yeah. It's that American Pie humor.
Nah, that's fine.
whatever else you want to call it. But yeah, so please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, please follow us on Instagram at Sons of Selvedge Podcast. Lastly, give us a shout on Instagram with any questions for a future episode, and reach out if you'd like to jump onto our Discord server. So again, thanks for sticking with us throughout 2021, and hope you all enjoy hanging out with us again in 2022. Also, if you're in the London area, Ilya's been organizing some monthly Worn Out Global meetups in person. So reach out to us and come hang out with us in person as well. So thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bye.